You're listening to a production of the National Media Archive. To learn more or volunteer, go to nationalmediaarchive.com.
Let's wind the clock back to 1876 deep in Pico Canyon, California. Picture rugged mountains, relentless prospectors, and a dream not of gold, but of black gold oil. While many gave up after fruitless drilling, Demetrius Schofield and Frederick Taylor, founders of California Star Oil Works, pressed on. Finally, a driller named Alex Mentry struck oil with Pico number 4, yielding 70 barrels a day. Now, 70 barrels might sound modest, but in the 19th century, this was a seismic breakthrough. Imagine a tiny spark igniting an entire industry. But here's the catch. Drilling is expensive. Without strong financial backing, they couldn't expand fast enough. Now you might be thinking, why not just find more investors? Well, easier said than done. Enter the Pacific Coast Oil Company, which acquired California Star Oil Works in 1879. This wasn't just a bio-tit, was the start of a transformative era where oil would soon become one of the world's most strategic resources. From humble beginnings in Pico Canyon, Chevron's journey illustrates what happens when grit meets opportunity and is supercharged by capital. That's how a local venture planted the seeds for a global titan. Now, let's talk about Pacific Coast Oil Company. Founded by Charles Felton, Lloyd Tevis, and George Loomis, these early capitalists saw oil's untapped potential. Think of them as the Silicon Valley VCs of their era keen to spot and scale breakthroughs. With significant investments and strategic vision, Pacific Coast Oil quickly became a key player in California's oil boom. They didn't just drill, they built the infrastructure, from refineries to distribution networks. Here's something to ponder. How do you scale from one well to an empire? It's all about vertical integration, controlling everything from extraction, upstream, to refining and sales, downstream. This period saw Pacific Coast Oil laying the foundation for modern energy conglomerates. Their early focus on both upstream and downstream activities is a textbook example of how to future-proof a business. Let me tell you a story. Without this foundation, later mergers and expansions would have been impossible. So if you think big oil is just about drilling holes, remember it's about building entire ecosystems. Let's fast forward to 1900. John D. Rockefeller, founder of Standard Oil, sees California's oil fields as the next frontier. What's his strategy? Acquisition. For $761 he buys Pacific Coast Oil Company, bringing the West under Standard's umbrella. This wasn't just about more oil. Rockefeller wanted consolidation combining exploration, production, and refining to dominate the market. That's vertical integration, and it's what made Standard Oil a monopoly. Now, you might ask, why was Standard Oil so controversial? Here's why. It controlled nearly every aspect of the oil supply chain, squeezing out competition and dictating prices. Monopoly power at its peak. This move allowed Standard Oil to establish a powerful foothold in California, integrating the region's resources into its nationally global operations. Rockefeller's acquisition set the stage for what would become Chevron. It's a classic case of strategic expansion where one company's vision reshapes an entire industry. Jump to 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court cracks down on Standard Oil, citing the Sherman Antitrust Act. The verdict? Break up the monopoly into 34 independent companies. Among them, Standard Oil Company of California, or SoCal, which would evolve into Chevron. Now, antitrust law might sound dry, but here's the real-world impact. Breaking up Standard Oil unleashed competition and innovation across the oil sector. No company could control everything anymore. Imagine the drama. Overnight, SoCal had to stand on its own, rebranding and redefining itself. Would it sink or swim? The answer came quickly. It swam, and then some. This pivotal moment forced SoCal to diversify and innovate, moving beyond just extraction into refining, chemical production, and distribution. So when we talk about Chevron's origins, it's not just about oil, it's about resilience under regulatory pressure and the ability to adapt when the rules of the game change. Picture the early 20th century. The automotive revolution is transforming America. Oil demand skyrockets, and SoCal is right at the epicenter, expanding refining capacity to fuel this new era. Industrialization and Karsta ultimate one-two punch drive a surge in petroleum consumption. SoCal responds by not just drilling more, but by innovating in refining technology, like catalytic cracking, which turns crude oil into gasoline more efficiently. Now you might wonder, what's catalytic cracking? Think of it as breaking down big molecules into smaller, more useful ones, kind of like turning logs into matchsticks for your campfire. This era also saw SoCal diversify into producing lubricants, chemicals, and even early forms of plastics. Each product line made the company more resilient to market swings. The upshot? By mid-century, SoCal was not just surviving, it was thriving, setting up the platform for global expansion. Let's step onto the global stage. In 1933, SoCal secures an oil concession in Saudi Arabia, move that would change the energy map forever. By 1938, the Ghawar field is discovered, the world's largest oil field. This wasn't just about new reserves. It was about geopolitics, partnering with host nations and navigating international law and resource nationalism. Two terms here: concession, the right to explore and extract, and resource nationalism, countries wanting more control over their assets. Now you might ask, how did SoCal handle local governments? Through joint venture-sharing profits, technology, and risk. These alliances were crucial for long-term access and stability. Chevron's global vision took shape as it expanded into Latin America, Africa, and beyond. Each new market brought unique challenges, political, logistical, and cultural. Let me tell you, this global reach wasn't luck. It was a mix of strategy, diplomacy, and technological prowess. That's how Chevron became a pillar of the modern energy world. By the 1970s, Chevron was pioneering offshore drilling. What's that? Imagine setting up an oil platform miles out at sea, drilling through thousands of feet of water and rock. It's like building a skyscraper on a moving platform. The technology revolutionized access to previously unreachable oil reserves. Two key terms: subsea production systems, which allow oil extraction on the ocean floor and blowout preventers, critical safety devices that keep wells under control. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds risky and expensive. Absolutely. The conflict, high cost, and technical challenges versus the lure of vast untapped reserves. Chevron's resolution? Invest massively in R&D, partner with tech innovators, and develop new drilling techniques. This not only boosted production, but also set new industry safety standards. Offshore drilling is a shining example of how Chevron's willingness to innovate has kept it ahead in the energy game. 1984 marks a turning point. Chevron acquires Gulf Oil, then the largest merger in U.S. history, and officially adopts the name Chevron Corporation. Why merge? To consolidate resources, diversify assets, and build global scale. Mergers are like two rivers joining, sometimes smooth, often turbulent. The conflict? Integrating different corporate cultures and operational systems while avoiding redundancies. Technical term alert. Synergy, the idea that the combined company is worth more than the sum of its parts. And portfolio diversification, spreading investments to reduce risk. Chevron navigated these challenges by streamlining operations, investing in staff training, and leveraging Gulf Oil's assets, especially in petrochemicals and natural gas. The outcome? A stronger, more agile energy giant with a clear brand identity. Chevron. No longer just a regional player, it was now a global force. The 21st century brought a new wave of challenges: climate change and the demand for cleaner energy. Chevron responded by investing in renewable energy, solar, wind, and biofuels, diversifying its energy portfolio. Two key terms: carbon footprint, the total greenhouse gases produced by an activity, and emissions reduction technologies, like carbon capture, designed to limit pollutants. Now, some critics ask, is this real change or just greenwashing? That's a fair question. Chevron's investments in renewables are significant, but oil and gas remain core to its business. Here's the balancing act: transitioning to sustainable energy while maintaining profitability and meeting global energy demand. It's a complex equation with no easy solution. But make no mistake, Chevron's pivot towards sustainability is reshaping its operations and long-term strategy, aiming to secure its place in a low-carbon future. Let's bring it to the present. In 2022, Chevron produced over 1.7 million barrels of oil and natural gas liquids per day. Think about that what started at 70 barrels in Pico Canyon now powers cities, industries, and economies worldwide. Chevron operates through two main divisions: upstream, exploration and production, and downstream, refining, transportation, marketing. This dual structure is key to balancing risk and maximizing returns. Two technical terms: net worth, the value of all assets minus liabilities, and market capitalization, the total value of all outstanding shares. As of December 2023, Chevron's net worth hit $285 billion. Now, you may be wondering, who really runs Chevron? Interestingly, its largest shareholders are also top executives like CEO Michael Wirth, aligning leadership with ownership. Chevron's financial scale gives it the clout to invest in technology, weather market downturns, and shape the future of energy policy on a global stage. Looking ahead, Chevron faces its biggest challenge yet: the global shift towards sustainable energy. CEO Michael Wirth recently acknowledged that while oil and gas will remain crucial, the company must adapt, perhaps radically, by 2040. Let me pose a question. Can an oil giant truly transform itself to lead in renewables and low-carbon tech? The answer is evolving, but Chevron's investments in petrochemicals, natural gas, and renewables suggest a strategy of diversification. Key terms: energy transition, the global movement from fossil fuels to sustainable sources, and strategic diversification, spreading investments across different energy types. The conflict: balancing shareholder demands for profit with societal pressure for sustainability. The resolution: ongoing innovation, robust partnerships, and a willingness to reinvent core business models. As the world seeks cleaner energy, Chevron's legacy of resilience and adaptability will be put to the ultimate test. The story isn't over, it's entering a bold new chapter, and we'll be watching it unfold together.